We're live.
Okay. Greetings and welcome to the world premiere of the Park Geeks podcast. My name is Justin, and next to me are some of my friends. This is Kurt.
Hello.
This is Raul.
Oh,
And while he may not be on camera, you can certainly hear his voice. This is Daniel.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here.
All right, this is a podcast that we've been wanting to start for some time. We all love amusement parks. We love going on thrill rides, be it the theming, the experience, to even just the tech and the story that goes into these things. They're worth talking about, and that's what we want to do. So in our world premiere episode, we are going to be talking about the farewell to the Shrek 4D attraction. Guys, this attraction has been around for 18 years. Daniel and I, we went on it not too long ago, and regardless of how anybody feels about the ride, I think it's at least earned its place, not just within the history of the park, but also in the Shrek franchise. Kurt, what did you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. Has it really been 18 years already? Has it been that long? Wow.
Yeah. We're climbing up there.
Yeah, it's been around quite a while. Yeah, I really like that ride. I'm really kind of in some respect. I mean, it's been quite a while since the first Shrek movie came out, so it does kind of date it a bit. But I am kind of sorry to see it go because it was very nice and very well done, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Raul, do you have any fond memories of the ride?
I remember when the ride first opened. It was such a big deal when the first movie came out. We had the attraction, the meet and greet. The meet and greet. I remember Shrek. If I remember correctly, he was a lot bigger, or at least his head was. There was also a meet and greet where it was just a face character, where it was a guy with paint on and stuff. But I've enjoyed it in the past. And still enjoyed it. I always thought it was a chill ride, get some air conditioning in there. But overall, like just fun time most times when I've gone there.
All right, and Daniel, what have been some of your favorite experiences with the attraction?
Just when I was a kid, because when that came out, I mean, I was, starting to become a teenager. And admittedly, I was a little nervous going in because um, my experience with 4D attractions, I've grew up through Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, and that's a nightmare fuel. I'm not going to lie. And going into it really is. But going to Shrek 4D, I mean, the movie was hot at the time. I love the movie and the upcoming sequel coming out. And it was great to sit in a theater that was, big, roomy, comfy. Had a fun pre-show, and yeah, like um, starting out, it was definitely a lot of fun. But over the years, I mean, we'll get to it, but it definitely lost a lot of its luster to me. But again, we'll get to it. But overall, I enjoyed it. I think it was a great, solid 4D attraction.
Yeah, because the attraction actually did something pretty unique that at least I have only seen one other attraction do this, and that was T2 3D, where they just kind of added like a little something extra to the end of the movie. And it apparently went over very well because I remember when there was a deluxe edition of the movie that came out, which included the attraction movie, and they put it in 3D. It actually came with glasses and everything. So that was definitely unique. I mean, Kurt, you've been to more parks than we have. Have you ever seen any other attraction do that?
Well, yeah, I think I agree with that. That was actually one of the things that I liked the best about that attraction was it wasn't just a retread of the movie. It was its own story. And it's legitimately, Shrek 1.5. It fits right in between the first two movies. And it's not just the same old thing again, which is kind of like, if you go to Disneyland, you go to any of the Fantasyland rides, they're all just retreads, pretty much, of the original movies. And that's fine. You can go and enjoy that. You get to see it, experience it, in the actual quote unquote real world with animatronics and physical sets and whatnot, which is kind of cool. But it's still just the same story you've seen before. And that was one of the unique things about this. It was its own new story. And it was actually a good story for however long that lasts, 12, 15 minutes, whatever that movie length is. It's very well done, very well paced, very well put together. And it just fits perfectly in between the first two movies. So as you're saying, you have the Shrek attraction, you have the Terminator live show, which is basically Terminator 2.5. It's in between the second and the third movies. perfectly. That was another thing like that. And offhand, I can't really think of other types of theme park attractions that kind of do that.
Yeah, because Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, that was really kind of its own thing. I don't really think it took place between the first and second movie, did it?
It is. I guess you could call it that because it was kind of. It wasn't either movie. It had to take place after the first movie for sure. Where it is relative to the second one, I'm not really sure.
Hmm. Now, Raul, what's something you're going to miss about the attraction here? Because you've been there longer than we have.
Uh,
Uh, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna mention something I'm going to. Sorry, my cat is attacking me here. Stop it. Something that I am going to miss would be the pre-show with the team members, where they would make jokes about flogging and basically the safety spiel before you get onto the ride. Because something I will say I never understood about when they made the you mentioned the DVD that included the ride video. It basically made the ride pointless in a way at that point. Because like, why would you, let's say, wait 30 minutes, 40 minutes on for the ride or the experience when you can watch it at home? Because like watching Disney rides or Universal rides on YouTube, like why watch it at home? It's not like someone is shaking and it's like high quality video. But overall, the thing I'm gonna miss is the team members and this feeling that would happen before the show.
Hmm. Yeah, and uh, Daniel, your thoughts?
On what I'm gonna miss most from the attraction, um,
Hmm.
yeah, that's I think you both already hit the nail on the head already. um, yeah, it's always difficult going last for sure, but um, but as far as the attraction, I think the pre-show was great. I liked all the spoofs and all the jabs at Disney. So if you go into queue, if you walk through the queue and you look at all the signage, like it'll mock some Disneyland rides and some Disney movies, and I just found that charming. Like Universal in general, they always love taking, just jabs at Disney in a tasteful way, and that always makes me smile. Which is something I wouldn't say when I was growing up, but now since recent events, which we won't get into, I can see why doing that and poking fun at the entertainment giant is fun and fitting. So I'm gonna miss that the most. I hope they keep that spirit up.
Well, one thing you guys will be happy to know is that it seems that on the Sunset Boulevard set that oh, Raul, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that. How familiar are you guys with the formation of DreamWorks Animation Studio?
I do know that Kurt and I are big fans of How to Train Your Dragon and Kung Fu Panda.
The reason I ask is because of, as far as the formation of how it created, it's with Steven Spielberg, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and there was a third member that I apologize that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know those three main guys. But Katzenberg, for those who may not know, used to be the president or was in charge of the Disney. I believe it was the Disney Animation Films division, or what I believe Josh Amaro was. No, I believe he was the Disney Animation Studio. He was at Disney. He was very high up in the company with either their film division or somewhere else in that. And he wanted to become the next president because after Frank Wells died during the Michael Eisner era, um, Michael said no. Jeffrey Katzenberg said, "Okay, screw you." Formed his own animation company with Spielberg and the third member, which I cannot remember at this time. And then they made you know, DreamWorks Animation, and that's why there's a lot of jokes, especially towards Disney at the time, and because of the few they've had, that's why certain films they have are very familiar, almost like that. You have Ants, Bugs Life, and you have like some of these kind of almost back and forth with certain movies, and there was because of that kind of rivalry in a way or feud you can say because of the bad blood that was left.
Yeah, that's true. I actually completely forgot all about that. But one thing, going back to what I was saying, one thing you guys will at least be happy to know is that it seems as if the Shrek attraction is actually getting its own star at the Sunset Boulevard set at Universal Studios Orlando. They, I remember there was actually this. Uh, there, there was a star that was blocked off, and everyone thought it was going to be for Betty White, but it was revealed to be for the Shrek attraction. Would you say it's worthy of its place on there, Kurt?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's certainly a very worthy ride. I think it was extremely well done for the time. I mean, I think some of it seemed a little cheesy, kind of more recently as technology has moved on. I think probably I'm in recent times probably my biggest gripe with the attraction is just the quality of the 3D projection is not what it could be in with today's technology. You really kind of notice it if you look at the images relative to the when they redid the Spider-Man attraction
Mm.
with the new projection and whatnot. I mean, that is really nice and crisp. And you go back and you look at Shrek, and it's kind of like, okay, that doesn't look so great, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, and speaking with some of the negative aspects, because I think we can agree if there's no such thing as perfect, then that also applies to amusement park rides. So, with that being said, Raul, what was something about the ride that you thought could have been better?
What Kurt mentioned, the 3D was definitely something that affected the ride, but I will say, me speaking relative to Spider-Man ride, the Spider-Man ride, so it was all kind of like fully animated in the sense that it was, you know, I don't want to say simple because of course this took a lot of time for the animators who made the original attraction and even the new one, but it was in a way I would say easier to convert the original image to a higher quality 4K because similar how they remaster or remaster certain games from like PS2 to PS4 and they have that high quality, high crisp look, and I want to say that's what they did basically with Spider-Man in a way. They made it more like what Kurt said, crisp. With Shrek, unfortunately, since it was animated specifically to look like the original film, and during that time there was no real way to give it that 4K quality, or maybe they even did, but they didn't want to necessarily spend them to make it 4K. And something I would say, it after the first time, you have some fun. I would say it didn't have that much repeat because yes, it's fun that your shares move and stuff, but it wasn't that much towards the attraction, and it felt more something like to do when you're waiting for something else or you're trying to relax and for something easy. Which don't get me wrong, I love Shrek, the franchise. Especially Shrek 2 is one of my favorite sequels for an animated film. Besides, of course, Toy Story, the first Toy Story 2 and 3, and other animated films. But I would say it felt simple to ride and didn't feel necessarily something that you want to necessarily redo every time when it was there, in years past.
Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of like so similar to that. I mean, I think you mentioned before, one of the nice things about that attraction was it's a place you get out of the heat for 20, 30 minutes. It's an air conditioning break.
Yeah.
And like you also mentioned the seats. The seat motion was pretty simple. I mean, it appears the seats can only have two motions really. It can be the seat can either be in the center, it can tilt forward, or it can tilt back, but it can't do any degrees of freedom in between those. So it was either this way, or this way. And we get to that chase seat, and you got that really fast rocking motion going, and that was about all it could do. And that's a little with today's technology that's kind of cheesy because it doesn't have a much. It's like you guys probably haven't had a chance to see the Kung Fu Panda attraction at Universal
Mm-mm.
Hollywood yet, right?
Nope.
No.
Yeah, that has seats. Those seats are they basically glide and they can move, all
Ooh.
360 degrees. So they can tilt in all directions like this. They don't go there's no up and down at all, but it can just tilt in any direction. It can rotate around too. So that it's
That's
very smooth and very natural. That's a really nice attraction. By the way, as we probably talk about that sometime in the future. But yeah, so again, I think the seats, as we were talking about, was kind of like an age limit kind of
Mhm.
thing. Kind of the technology is kind of showing because that was really cool when it opened, but probably not so much now. Which actually kind of brings me up to something I always thought was kind of interesting. Um, I do like watching. I do a lot of repeats. I usually go, when I go to the park multiple days. I'll do it, a couple times a week if I'm in town and hitting the
I
parks.
can vouch for this, people. I can
Yeah,
vouch for this.
and one of the fun things I like, since I already know everything that's going to happen, is watching the first timers react to it all, right? Because they don't know about the lake ticklers, right? When the spiders come down, and that makes everybody freak out. And that's kind of fun because I know it's coming, and you watch all the people like, spiders. you know.
Yeah.
And then they're not used to the extreme seat rocking. During when you get to that chase sequence where the seats are really going and they continuously, and it's kind of like almost like a joke. I think at that point, I mean, I think they're just kind of teasing you with this. We can make the seats do this. We're going to see how long you can take this. It's
And there's
almost
no
like,
seatbelts on this thing either.
yeah. I
It
mean, it's almost like an endurance test to see how much the audience can tolerate of this.
you're very right about the endurance test.
I just think it's hilarious watching people react to that because, I know when it's going to stop, but other people don't. Is that they're going like, is it going to do this for the rest of the movie? What's going on here?
uh, Daniel, what was something about the attraction that you didn't really care much for?
Um, I'm gonna say this with like most 3D attractions. I just hate the forced, 3D jokes that you see, like stuff just popping out of the screen so comically. It's like there's no reason for the characters to do this. It's just there to be there. Like, oh, here's a champagne bottle. It's coming towards the screen. Ooh ah. Um, it was cool back then, but like now it's like they borrowed like that same idea and some ideas to it throughout many of these 4D 3D attractions, and to me, I just never found that appeal. Um, and also, yeah, with the seat rocking, like, it gave me a little bit of a headache, surprisingly. Like, I've been on many roller coasters, but
Really?
yeah, a little bit. Maybe I was just tired that day, but yeah, like it's showing its age. Like, it really jerks you. So if you're not ready for it, like, it's definitely gonna take people with motion sickness or even the elderly. It's gonna rock them, and it's gonna be like, wait, I thought this was a family friendly attraction. What? Why? Why do I feel like I'm on this weird mini roller coaster here in the dark? Um, also, I think the main theater could have been a little better themed. I've been in better rooms, like the Bugs Life Theater, in Animal Kingdom. I think
Oh,
was
yeah.
better done.
Yeah.
So it was
Mhm.
kind of plainish. Even it didn't really feel torture chambery like the pre-show room, which is very well done. I wish they continued that into the main scene instead of being this weird theater. It's like this doesn't look like a torture chamber. This looks kind of comfy-ish. So it was, even though the seats aren't really that comfy, but yeah, it was just a weird expectation drift. Like great pre-show, great setup, and then you enter the main show building and it's blah.
That's when
Yeah, because for me, like the thing I just didn't like was the chairs because like I can handle the motion, but it's the sound of the air pressure because that will take you out of the moment. Because whenever you're doing a theme park attraction, just like with watching a movie, it's important to get sucked into the moment as if you're there with them in some form or fashion. But with these, when you hear like you're done. It's gone.
Yeah, I think. But the way I look at that, it's part of your torture, right? You're
Well
in there.
played.
You're in there to be tortured, and this is part of your torture.
Well, checkmate, sir. Now,
Yeah, I kind of
as far as
I embrace the cheesiness of that myself.
That's fair.
although it really makes you want to try what you mentioned over with Kung Fu Panda at some point, uh, because
Yeah,
that sounds way
we
better.
should talk about that. It's really good. It's not 3D projection, which everybody thinks it's a 3D, but it's not. It's actually they actually projection map across all the walls in the theater. Really cool.
Really?
It's really cool. It's not. So basically, as we were talking about, you got the cheesy, cliche 3D effects. They don't do any of that. There's not any 3D, but it looks like you're in this environment, and it's really cool. Very well done.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, you've been talking about wanting to go out to California.
I sure have, and I'll definitely have the opportunity to do some theme parks over there. At least the Disney parks. Not sure if I'll have the budget for Universal on top of that as well.
There's still time. But as far as 4D here, though, because everyone's familiar with 3D, or at least 3D films, they've been in regular movie theaters for some time. But what exactly would constitute a 4D, Kurt?
Yeah, this is really kind of gray area. I don't think there's really any strict definitions. Believe it or not, I've actually been to one that claims to be 5D. They had to go one
What?
more than everybody else. Yeah, that's at my local Six Flags park. They had a 5D experience. We can talk about that separately. But yeah, I think for most of the 4D definitions, it's usually a 3D movie combined with usually with some kind of motion seats, and then maybe also some in theater effects, which is the usual spray some water in your face, spray some air in your face, or a seat tickler of some kind. That usually seems to be it. It is kind of gray area because, as some of us have talked about before, okay, so you got Star Tours, over at Disneyland. That's when they updated that. That's now 3D film being projected, and you've got motion. So that probably counts as a 4D theater now, sort of.
Raul?
At least from the way I've experienced, because I've been through different 4D theaters, including the Nickelodeon Hotel 4D theater, where they have different shorts, whether it's a SpongeBob attraction experience that you could also experience in certain Six Flags around the U.S. And then I haven't been to myself, but in certain theaters, especially Regal Cinema, if you guys ever pass the International Road here near Universal, there's a theater there called Regal Point that has a 4D theater or 4DX theater. And the way they describe, they can have wind blowing in your face, water effects, motion, all these different elements coming at you, similar to going back to Spider-Man in a way. Spider-Man in a way can be constructed as a 4D attraction because you got elements of heat kind of coming towards you. You have water effects and different elements like that. Even though there's a very few here and there, it could technically constitute as a 4D because 3D, of course, is you get a film and you're seeing it in like a third dimension is coming towards you. 4D is something of that nature of the film that is like coming at you. You're feeling like you're more part of it. So I feel like Spider-Man would constitute as 4D. King Kong, the new King Kong attraction would technically also constitute as 4D as you get certain elements of water in that attraction. And then with Shrek, of course, you got the different elements of like being added towards you, making it a 4D attraction.
Daniel, your thoughts?
Those are some very well given definitions. I believe the term 4D is just a very specific but also vague term because if you really stretch the definition enough, I mean, you could fit more attractions into 4D. Because if the parameter is just motion, I mean, what about all motion simulators? Where they fall in that spectrum?
Yep.
Or yeah, even show buildings that have like various effects that go on, like fire. Like, do you consider the Born Suntacular a 4D experience? Like, do you? Yes, I would say yes. Technically, yes. Um, Even though it mixes live and 4D elements, so 4D is a formula. I don't think it's a. I don't think it's a what's it like a specific genre. So yeah, I think we gotta be careful, like what we designate as a 4D and a 3D experience. And I personally, the 5D thing is just a bunch of baloney. Like, that's just marketing. They
Yeah.
don't do anything different than that's just buzzword, more immersion. No, it's just the same 4D tricks, just maybe done in a different way.
Yep.
Yeah,
And,
kind of like
and,
what?
and,
Oh, go ahead, Kurt.
and as you mentioned, that's a good point, is whether or not motion is required to be called 4D, because we have, as you said, there are 3D attractions that don't have motion but have theater effects instead, and some of them, like for example, I don't know if you guys saw the Pirates 4D movie attraction thing that Busch Gardens Tampa used to have. You guys ever see that one?
Yeah,
I
I remember
didn't.
that.
Yeah.
Leslie
So
Nielsen was in it.
it was a 3D movie, and they sprayed a good deal of water on you during that one, and that was their 4D, just by spraying water. And as you mentioned, you've got things like the old Terminator 2 attraction that you had there at Universal. That the seat moved a little bit at the end, but you had theater effects and you had 3D projection. So that's certainly a type of 4D, theater experience.
Agreed, 100%.
For me, what would really constitute for 4D is scents, smells, because when it comes to actually feeling something, there's very little you can do with that. Like water, you can feel the heat, you can feel the wind. There's not much you can do with that. But if if you're like on like the Jimmy Fallon Race Through New York ride and you're at the scene where he's throwing pizza at you. If the entire room smelled like pizza, okay, to me that is a fourth dimension because you can. There's all these different scents that you can use. Matter of fact, I know Disney did that with Flight of Passage, which we'll probably talk about some other time. So when it comes to if you're going to count feeling as a fourth dimension, there's really not much you can feel unless you're putting the object in the person's hand. But with sense, you're not putting anything in their hands, and there's all sorts of different smells out there that you can use to simulate that you're there. And
So you mean
there's a
like chili
reason why.
dogs?
Like what?
You mean like chili
Like
dogs, for example?
yeah, sure. Let's do that. Well,
From
yeah, put
fish.
that on the Sonic the Hedgehog attraction when that ever happens.
Don't ruin my childhood like that, Justin.
Now, with that being said, uh, there's an old saying, out with the old and in with the new. And it seems like we're going to be getting some kind of Minions attraction uh, for what's going to be taking its place. But we're not entirely sure what kind. Uh, Kerr, you know a lot more about ride technology. Would it be really costly for them to just rip out the old ride system and put in a whole new one? Or just would it be better off they just reuse what they already had?
Yeah, I tend to. Well, obviously, it would be a lot cheaper just to reuse what they already have. But I think, as we've already talked about, those seats are pretty dated,
Mhm.
and I think they're going to go. I don't think putting another, just changing out the film and putting a Minions in there is really going to fly. I think as far as what guests want. I mean, it'd certainly be cheap for them to do that, but I would be very surprised if they did that. I think they're gonna. I think there's a higher chance that building's going to get gutted and something totally new. It's like when they converted Twister to the Jimmy Fallon attraction. That building was just torn down basically and rebuilt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's kind of what I think is going to happen with that. I have no idea what they're going to do. I mean, there was a standalone Minions movie. Maybe they're going to play off of that. I don't really know. I mean, it's kind of like a lot of people talked about. They're definitely teasing Minions, but you already got Minions like right across the street. you know, so
Yeah,
they
like
got to do
what more
something.
can you do?
Yeah, I mean, you got to do something different because that's already a motion theater.
Hmm.
It's got to be something different. I don't know if it's going to be like a dark ride through kind of thing. Like Secret Life of Pets is over at Universal Hollywood, or what?
Hmm. Raul, any guesses?
Um, from conversations that I've been having online, because again, everything is rumors and nothing's been confirmed. We do know it's gonna be a Minions, a type attraction, and this not. I mean, this just kind of gives me a guess that they're trying to do a little bit of a Minions of Miniland because if you look at certain other parks, specifically their newest park, Universal Beijing, they have an entire land of Minions. The Minion Land, of course, has the Despicable Me attraction. It has its own shops and restaurants, and I believe it has another, you know, attraction in there that has all based, based on the Despicable Me franchise. And like Kurt mentioned, we had the Minions movie, and there was a rumor they were trying to do something that came out at the same time as the new Gru movie. It was like the Rise of Gru, which is thankfully a prequel to Despicable Me, which is also a sequel to the Minions movie. That was delayed, I believe, several times. It's supposed to come out this year, and so showing Gru how he became, the big mastermind that we know. As far as what
Hmm.
elements of the ride could be, it could be a moving attraction, like an experience walkthrough where you walk through and you see maybe some stuff happen. It could be an actual ride. It could be a theater. It could just be different things because again, this is what a lot of people are talking about. There's permits and stuff you can find online, but with no details of what the ride will be. There was room. The question then becomes also what's going to happen with the rest of the building because if they do demolish most of it, that's fine. What will happen to then Halloween Horror Nights? Because for those who don't know, they use one of the theaters of Shrek as one of the haunted houses for
Hmm.
Halloween Horror Nights. And not only that, part of the line of the house was actually part of will be the Shrek line mixed in with a little bit of the street that was next to it, like right next to the meet and greet
Hmm.
where Shrek is. They also make a zigzag line there. So the question then becomes, if they're in construction and that building won't be ready until let's say 2023, what's going to happen to the house in general, let's say for this year and potentially for the future, because if that does become basically a no go for houses, we'll be dropping from 10 houses to 9 houses.
Hmm. Daniel, any thoughts?
Um, yeah, I mean, since we're pretty confident it's gonna be Minions, I think we can rule out that it's probably gonna be another 4D attraction because you already have right next door. You have the moving. You already have a moving 4D experience. Motion slash motion simulator with the Minions ride. So to have two similar rides back to back, that's not going to win anyone any favors. And Universal's a company to me that learns from their mistakes and they listen to feedback. Like they know about the backlash about reusing ride systems. I mean, case in point.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, case in point that and how cheaply made that was. But I mean, thanks to Potter and all the revenue that has made, they can do a lot more. Like I agree. Like I think Shrek, that whole soundstage building, I think this will be a start of like a major facelift for studios. Because this kind of ties in. Like, why can't this be like a Minions land of some sort with unique
Hmm.
facades and stuff? Yeah, that'd be more budget, but I'd rather have that than going back from drab city sets to beautifully themed areas back to it just feels very disjointed. So um, I rather studios take the Islands approach and stay and start moving away from the studios building and the backlot experience because that was done. It's a thing of the past, and I think that should be the direction that Universal should go in. And the Minions ride, um, I hope it's something unique. I hope it's a walkthrough thing. I hope there's elements where it encourages rewritability. It's not just a one and done. Like once you ride Shrek, you know what you're expecting every time. It never changes. I will give Fast and Furious credit because with the pre-show, yeah, it's the same pre-show, but the actors, the TMs make it funny and stuff. But for
Hmm.
Shrek, yeah, just you go in and that's it, and you know what you're getting. And I hope Minions change that. It shows another evolution in the theme park process.
Go ahead, Raul.
I do wanna add is that the thing with Universal, I will actually kind of have to disagree with you as far as the theming. The theming of Universal is that you're riding the movies, you're experiencing parts of the behind the scenes. There's even entire experience where you get to go through different elements of behind the scenes or movies. The Mummy attraction, you're an extra being part of filming, a scene for the movie of the Mummy film. Regardless if some people may not know Brendan Fraser, although he's been definitely coming kind of back as a resurgence, as thanks to social media and people showing him the love that he deserves. We have the Jason Bourne attraction using several new technology, even though the last film came out was, if I'm not mistaken, 2015, 2016, the Jason Bourne film that came out, years later, which is technically the fourth film in the franchise, the fifth film, sorry. And it still, has a lot of, behind the scenes element, film techniques, and other elements. Because you have a Hollywood street, you have a New York street, San Francisco. Yeah, the World Expo maybe not fit in, but does have that movie, you know, feeling. And a lot of them film studios, TV shows have filmed there. And if you just convert it into a completely, um, you know, theme attraction, maybe similar to what they're doing with, let's say, Epic Universe or even Islands, then it kind of takes away the appeal for productions to happen here. And go ahead, Justin.
And the other thing that I want to specify or make clear to people, I should say, is that there was originally there was a rumor going around thinking that the Secret Life of Pets was going to take it, but a lot of people didn't think it would fit in that building because the theater's right there and it's pretty small. There is way more to that building than just the theater. Believe me, these sound stages are enormous. I have had the privilege of stepping into those things when they're completely gutted and there's nothing in there. I have had the privilege of attending a few tapings in some of those sound stages, and these things are massive. Trust me, there is way more to the interior of that building than just that small theater.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it will get gutted and we'll get something that isn't a screen based attraction because the joke has been said that how many of those Universal actually has. Uh, I wish they would have gone with something other than Minions because, I mean, come on, you already have a Minions attraction. Why are you making a second one? But granted, that is really a family kids thing. I really can't get that upset over it. They should be allowed to have their rides and attractions too.
I mean, if
But
Disney's able to have two Frozen attractions, even though they're not right next to each other, one is a sing along and one is the actual attraction. And I mean, we give Universal a little bit talk about their screen based attraction, but Disney's also going a lot into screen based. Of course, you can argue a little bit of Flight Passage, even though I do say do enjoy that ride a lot. Is screen based. The Mickey Mini Railway, that's mainly screen with some projection technology and stuff like that, but it's basically kind of like a screen based attraction because there's very few practical effects except a couple here and there. And so this is definitely kind of going towards that. And then even you look at their Spider-Man attraction in Disneyland. What is that? A screen-based attraction, and a lazy one at that. Because we gave shit for Fast and Furious, for example, that was like a lazy attraction. But if you also look at it, it at least kind of did something to entertain you and kind of kept you in the sense that we're transitioning from place to place without noticing it. With Spider-Man, you're just moving from, oh, we're here, okay, wall, 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 and then now next scene. There's no flow to it. It feels boring, and then you have add-ons you can buy before you ride the ride. $30 plus an additional $30, so total $60 to get extra points, which people have found it does nothing to your score. It's like you buying an extra blaster in a Men in Black gift shop to go in Men in Black to get extra points, and then in reality, it doesn't do anything to your score, and someone who didn't get the blaster can get a higher score than you, without the bonus, mind you. So, yes, Universal and I know Disney has done their up and downs with attractions, but there's certain things that you can only do with screen based, which is I know it's like, oh, we don't want this much screen based, but you can only do so much with certain elements. What I do like is certain rides that mix in screen with practical effects. And if anyone has seen the Universal Beijing attraction of Jurassic World,
Oh God,
you
it's
know what
beautiful.
I'm talking about. You have a giant, fully animatronic Indominus Rex following your ride vehicle, and it's a fully body moving with your vehicle, and it's like an actual dinosaur in front of you. Then you have the Indominus with the T Rex fighting with giant animatronics, and moves into a screen base with them fighting, and then goes back to a kind of animatronic. So something like that can work. It just has to find the right balance. It's not the problem of having screen-based attraction, is that you have to make it in a way that like it's not only fun, but it has definitely that rewriability. Jimmy Fallon, different story in a way. It does have some rewriability. It can be fun, but I just never understood how you make a ride based off a TV host.
Yeah, well,
okay, so
that could be a whole discussion by itself.
Oh
Just to
yeah,
follow up what you said
yeah.
about the screen base, I think and it's kind of like you were alluding to the Spider-Man ride at the Islands. That's probably the best screen based attraction I think that I've seen. It's got that, as you're talking about, it's got that balance of screens and practical effects going on at the same time, and you're just kind of gliding back and forth between the two. And when they updated the projections on it, it gets a lot more seamless as how everything fits together. So I still think that ride is still kind of the gold standard for doing screen-based rides correctly. And then things like, Fast and Furious is kind of at the bottom of the list of how you don't do them correctly. Now that I will give them, that ride, since you guys haven't been to Hollywood, that is, as you probably know, that is a brief attraction on the studio backlot tour. So it's part of a longer, almost an hour-long experience, and that's just one little segment. I think as far as that environment, it works really well because you don't have to get off. You're on the tram, you're taking the backlot tour, and the tram just goes through the building, into the screen-based attraction. It's kind of, it flows really well. It works really well in the context of the backlot tour, but it does not work, in my opinion, as a theme park attraction, by itself in the way Universal did it at Florida Park.
oh god. All right, now we've been talking for close to an hour here. So, any final thoughts and your farewells to Shrek 4D? Kurt?
Waffles.
I'll let Daniel go first this time. Yeah, waffles. Let Daniel go first.
That's beautiful. Oh man. I guess briefly, for Shrek, Shrek 4D. I think its legacy, it's going to be fondly remembered as one of the better 4D experiences at theme parks. Um, but at the same time, I think it did overstay its welcome a bit. But for what it did, for the Shrek franchise, I think it did pretty well. I think people will look back many years fondly at it. They'll look at the movie and be like, "This is cool," and they'll see the bridge and the care that Universal's put into this attraction, the attention to detail, and all that. So, while I'm not gonna miss his other attractions that are not at studios anymore, I'm glad that I was able to experience it in its infancy as well as even recently, and it makes me appreciate how far we come in the theme park business. That 4D doesn't have to be limited to just a theater; it can be on a moving vehicle, it can be extended to other experiences for immersion. So, I'm excited for the future, and I have my full faith in Universal that whatever is going to come in that building will be something that'll have a larger legacy, even if the IPs associated with isn't as iconic as Shrek, in my opinion, which is not, in my opinion, but for the kids nowadays, it is. So we'll see. I'm optimistic. That's it for me.
All right. Now, Raul, did you just want to say waffles, or did you have more to say?
Oh no, I have more to say besides just waffles. I actually got this because there was a T-shirt that was the closing day shirt, but I didn't get it on time, so I got a stuffed animal before they splash mountain and start selling it off for like $300 on eBay. But I will always have fond memories of the ride. I've took my grandfather there, my parents, of course, and it's always like a fun, easy ride. The team members were always fun, and something else I wanted to say: the meet and greet is still there. It's still going to be there, as far as I know, for a good while. The donkey is always great, and, so it's going to be very interesting to see in the future. Because this is definitely not going to be the last time we see Shrek, because the Shrek is part of the Macy Day Parade that Universal has for the holidays. They have the meet and greet, and like I believe it was either Kurt or Daniel mentioned, there's a fifth movie coming out, if I'm not mistaken, by ironically Illumination Studios, that's developing the fifth film, not DreamWorks Animation this time around, which is very interesting to definitely say the least. Unless it's a partnership that I don't know about. But since technically both studios are now Universal's owned properties, but we'll see what happens. We have, of course, Epic Universe around the corner. Whatever they end up deciding to do with the Fear Factor area, which could be a whole separate video on its own. So there's definitely a lot to look forward to the next 5 years, including, I just add real quick, Universal has recently come under new leadership in a way. Both Bill Davis, who's was the president of Universal Orlando, recently retired and was succeeded by the president of Universal Hollywood. She actually opened Universal Orlando here back in 1990, a part of the opening team for food and beverage, and was a college graduate from University of Florida here. And the person who replaced the CEO, Tom Williams, he was replaced by the vice president of Universal Creative and chairman of Universal Parks, and now he's taking over the CEO role. So you have someone from the creative side taking over as the CEO role, and someone who knows already kind of the Florida parks a little bit as far as opening, then to the Hollywood side, so there's a little different perspective there, coming over being the president here. So we're definitely going to see not only new changes for the parks in general that most likely were already kind of planned, but also new management change that can kind of give a new perspective. Whether it'll be like a Chapek situation, we will see. But from what I've heard, they are great people. They know what's happening. They're not gonna change really anything like that's already worked well. They're just gonna try to improve things and try to leave their own mark later down the road. Well, whatever that will be.
Well, for Universal's sake, let's hope we don't have a Chapek situation. Period.
Oh God, yeah.
Period. We do not need that
right,
on the
Kurt.
Universal side of things.
No. All right, Kurt. Any final words to Shrek 4D?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I've definitely have fond memories of that. I thought it was an extremely well done attraction when it opened. The idea of having it be a mini sequel to the first movie was just perfect. That's exactly what it needed to be, and not just be a retread of the original. I'm kind of tired of these ride through dark rides that just just show you the story of the movie you've already seen. It's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I already know the story. But this was it was a whole new story. It fit perfectly in between the first two movies, and they captured, the humor and the style of it. And that's what was really unique about when DreamWorks made the first Shrek movie, is that they hit this style that was basically satire and parody of these classic, Disney fairy tale movies kind of thing. They took the Disney fairy tale formula and kind of like, twisting the knife in a little bit there on the cliches and everything on that, and they came up with something really fresh and funny, and they continued on with this attraction, and I thought that was great. And I think even the cheesiness of the seats, I think, kind of worked, in my opinion. I think that more so maybe than the rest of you do. But that always amused me, how kind of cheesy the seats were. I don't know. Maybe I'm just easily amused by things like that. And just the effects. I thought it was a delightful attraction. I'm kind of sorry to see it go, but I definitely understand, that it is definitely dated right now at this point. So I kind of see why audiences want something new. A little bit. I'm not sure how I feel about the Minion stuff. Like we said, there already is Minions across the street. Do we really need more? And if you looked at the photos from Universal Hollywood, they have the Despicable Me attraction, and right next to it, they have a little outdoor kind of water play area thing. So it's one of these things that the kids can run around, and there's water spraying down and stuff, and there's Minions decorations around and that kind of stuff. I hope Florida's not going to do that there. Tear the building down and put it in a play area like that. Because as some of you say, it sort of looks like they're trying to make like a Minions mini land, inside the park, which is kind of what they did at Hollywood. And it kind of looks okay there. I mean, I can't really get very excited about it there, but I guess I'm going to be hopeful that they're going to do some kind of really kick-ass ride or show or attraction or something. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, so Shrek 4D, on behalf of all of us here at Park Geeks, thank you all. Thank you so much for the memories, for making the Shrek franchise proud, and we'll miss you. Until next time, this is Justin, along with Kurt, Daniel, and Raul, saying this has been Park Geeks. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Please leave a message for us. We will check them, and we'll let you know when we will be back for our next episode. Take care.
Yeah, farewell.